Now, coming up next is a keynote interview that is with Mr. Michael Yao, Senior Vice President, Head of Corporate Finance of Alibaba Group, and facilitated by Mrs. Cindy Chow, Executive Director of Alibaba Entrepreneurs Fund. Michael will share his views on reshaping the fundraising and technology vision as a topic. So everyone, let's put our hands together for Cindy and Michael to the stage. Thank you so much. The stage is all yours.
Thank you, Melody. Hi everyone, good morning again. I'm so happy to have my colleague Michael here with me today. Michael is the Senior Vice President of Alibaba Group. He joined the group in 2012, and he's mainly responsible for the group's corporate finance, international M&A, treasury activities, and also actively represents the group in investor relations activities. Michael also works very closely with brands, associations, and rights holders to protect their IP rights on Alibaba's platforms. And as one of the members of the senior management team, he helps to steer the group's overall strategy. And before Alibaba, Michael has been working in the banking field since the early 90s, and he has very deep experience in capital markets. So without further ado, let me start off with the first question, Michael. So how do you see, the COVID? I mean, especially with the China economy after COVID.
Right.
Have you been back to China yet? Have you traveled back?
Since I have not. I have been Hong Kong bound since end of February.
Right.
So working happily in the office and at home. But first, before I start, I want to first thank the Cyberport Venture Capital Forum for holding this event. It's very exciting to see the energy virtually with all the speakers and the audience and the questions. I think it was probably a very difficult decision to have the forum and to continue. There's probably lots of excuses to cancel the forum, but I think it is such an important event and such an important forum that I'm privileged to be invited to speak at today's forum, and I'm happy that the forum decided to go ahead. So thank you for holding this event. Cindy, to your question with regard to the Chinese economy, I just want to say a few things. I think many people know the Chinese economy is the second largest economy in the world. It's 14 trillion US dollars, and I think people are familiar in the third quarter, China also reported a growth, an expansion of the economy of 4.9%, which in this environment, in the pandemic-affected world, that is quite a remarkable achievement. But what I wanted to talk about a little bit more was the stimulus that the Chinese government has actually put back into the economy to encourage consumption, to encourage growth. And this stimulus actually, for those who were here during the 2008 global financial crisis, is more targeted and more focused, where in 2008, I think it was more general stimulus. But the Chinese government is putting stimulus in a few areas. One is in infrastructure.
Right.
And when I say infrastructure, it is not just roads and bridges. For example, they're putting stimulus into high-tech manufacturing. They're putting stimulus into 5G and other technology developments, in electric cars, in cloud. Those are all very important areas in addition to traditional infrastructure. So the goal of the stimulus is actually to encourage employment. The government has a goal of creating 9 million jobs this year. So the priorities have actually changed. It's to stimulate employment. That's the first area. The second area is government is very much supporting SMEs through their tax cuts.
Right.
And SMEs are the lifeblood of any economy. There's millions of SMEs in China. On our platform alone, we have millions of merchants. And the government is putting 350 billion US dollars of tax cuts into the economy for SMEs. And the other area is also local subsidies to encourage consumption, and that is a positive sign. If you look in the U.S., the federal government has actually taken the mantle of sending stimulus checks. But in China, it is actually the local governments who are encouraging subsidies and raising it through local bond financing. So you will get, for example, for every 100 renminbi you spend, maybe there'll be a 10, 20% coupon, which actually the governments actually distribute across our platform, Alipay, and other payment platforms as coupons. So I think that's very important. The final thing I'll say with regard to the Chinese economy is it has undergone a shift from a traditional manufacturing and export-related economy to now a consumption economy.
Right.
And you have, what I would say, 3 sub-economies within China that will drive consumption. One is the middle class, the 350 million middle class that are located in Tier 1 and Tier 2 cities, and that'll encourage imports, consumer staples, luxury goods, all that the 350 million middle class are buying. Second is actually what I would say the Tier 3 to 5 cities, some of which some have not heard of or are familiar with the names, but there's 160 cities in China with over 1 million people.
Right.
And that is 500 million people who are also consumers. And the third area is the rural. You have 500 million people in the rural, including migrant workers, that will also boost consumption. So I would say we're very confident of the Chinese economy going forward in the long term.
Right, right. So with that background, right? So how do you see, the impact on consumers like e-commerce, which of course Alibaba is the core business, and how do you see the trends going forward?
Yeah, so COVID has obviously affected everyone in a little bit differently around the world, and the recovery has come a bit different. I think what we're seeing, if you look at the traditional economy, and what I would say is travel, hospitality, food and beverage, restaurants, pubs, bars, even live events, sporting events, theme parks. What happens and how quickly that recovers is honestly anybody's guess. It will depend on a vaccine, I believe, number one, and number two, consumer confidence to re-engage in those types of areas, especially live sporting events. But what we've seen because of COVID is the acceleration of digitalization. And what I mean by that is obviously, think about how you are now working from home, business collaboration on various sort of video interfaces, whether it be Zoom or our own Ding Talk, et cetera. You're seeing the proliferation of digital means. It could also be short-form video, live streaming, TikTok videos, et cetera. You're seeing the digitalization accelerate, and I think that you're seeing around the world. What people would have thought is 3 years for digitalization to roll out, we have now seen compressed into 6 months.
Right.
And I think that will be a trend that will continue, and hopefully through the recovery in various areas, it will continue as the new norm.
Right, I see. So given, this new normal and also the geopolitical situation and of course the US election results in the next 2 days, what is there any effect on your international M&A strategy with Alibaba?
Actually, before I wanted to just finish up my last thought. I guess in terms of areas that we're seeing that are affected and what trends are both neutral going down as well as trends that are coming up in technology. I just wanted to touch upon that. I think the sharing economy, which could be anything from ride hailing to renting out a room, for example, in your house, shared workspaces, those areas have been more challenged through this COVID environment. Actually, there has been some recovery since the trough in March and April, but I think those and what we would say the gig economy, those areas are going to be more challenged, sort of the self-employed contract, short-term workers. Some of those jobs have come back, especially in local services, but I'm not sure all of those jobs will come back. So those are the trends that are sort of more neutral to maybe down in those environments, but hopefully those will recover. The areas that have been improving, obviously, is online groceries, e-commerce. My children in university and boarding school are doing all their education online, so obviously that is a new norm. Even telemedicine, healthcare consulting, those are all areas that are doing better as a trend in technology in this environment. And the actual indirect beneficiary of that is the cloud computing. If you think about all the Zoom calls that you do, all the teleconferences that you do, all the storage that you'll need, that is actually benefiting the cloud computing industry. So just finishing up on that thought.
So with this, all these new trends that you are seeing or you believe will be the next wave, will that affect your investment M&A strategy for Alibaba Group? You at the back of you have the geopolitical situation, the upcoming U.S. election results.
Right. Yeah. Well, actually, we hope we're a little ahead of the trend at Alibaba with regard to digitalization. But the areas that we're focused on, and we have been focused on, have been in those areas that I just mentioned, where the trends are doing well in this environment. But we also, our M&A strategy has been focused on how do we give a better user experience on our platform? How do we acquire users? Because in that way, it benefits the consumer, it benefits the merchant. So for example, we made an investment recently, or over the last few years, we've made an investment in the largest hypermarket retail chain in China called Sun Art. And we're helping them digitalize. As consumers are ordering more online, but they also need the offline experience and go into the stores. We help Sun Art with regard to inventory management. What are the top selling items, which is very valuable to them. And that actually is different in different areas of even the same city, for example. Helping them with fulfillment. So again, it's a theme of digitalization, but it is also relevant to the consumer because they're getting a good user experience. We've invested in logistics as well, because that's important for fulfillment for our business. We made an investment about a year ago in a company called Chow, which helps us with regard to our e-commerce cross-border business. So I think we'll continue to make investments in businesses that strengthen our core business, and geographically we'll look around the world. But I think there's plenty to do at home in China, as well as in Southeast Asia.
I see. Yeah, I think I share what you just mentioned because like when we select our startups to invest, we always look at their core business value, whether they can solve a problem or bring some unique proposition to consumers or business, So I guess it's very important that you strategize to enhance the core competitiveness of Alibaba Group. So there are a lot of startup founders online watching this panel. And Michael, you have been in the capital market for quite a long time, and you have helped Alibaba with 3 IPOs, Back in 2007, the Hong Kong B2B IPO, and then the US IPO, and last year the Hong Kong, the coming back to Hong Kong. So with all the experience that you have, can you share some thoughts, when startups should, think about going to IPO or an M&A, when there's money on the table, when to take it or when to leave it?
Right.
And also some tips that they have to really watch out when they make the decision, especially with IPO.
Yeah. So thank you, Cindy, for that. So I've been involved in those 3 IPOs that you mentioned.
But many more outside, right?
Well, the ones
in
before,
your career.
and then there's another one that was quite big that is in the market right now, obviously with Ant. So we're one digital economy. But what I would say with regard to IPO, I think it's not only at the time of the IPO. I think whether a business is raising seed financing, venture financing, Series A through Series D, private rounds, or going public, I think the number one thing that ventures should think about is what is your purpose? What is your mission? The easiest conversations that I have had with all of our investors, our public market investors, and even the private investors before we were public, they were easier because the mission and the drive of the business and the company had a purpose. It solved a problem. You don't exist as a business to make money, quite honestly,
Right.
because it's not a sustainable model. So it's very important that you have a mission, you have a purpose, you solve problems, and then your conversations and your ability to raise money is much easier, and you have buy-in. I think the other thing you talk about, leaving money on the table or not leaving money on the table. Look for long-term partners. Look for long-term partners that can add to your business, can share intelligence with you, but believe in your business, because there will always be rough times in a business, and you need a long-term partner that will stand by you. So that is probably one of the biggest lessons that I've learned in speaking to our public market investors over these years.
Right, I see. So a lot of founders, when they do fundraising, they are very sometimes they are very scared that their influence in the company will be diluted. So how do you see, or what advice will you have for them in terms of a balance between control and getting more resources to help the companies to grow?
Yeah, I think you have to. A founder will always worry about that, but I think if a founder does his job correctly, he will pass on that. He or she or the group of founders will pass on that knowledge to the next generation.
Right.
So you don't have to worry about control if you're training the next generation and succession. And I think that's very important. And to have a culture that maintains itself, because the company should last longer than an individual founder. And that individual founder will at some point want to do something else. So I think it's important to make sure you maintain the culture, you train, you find people that are smarter than you find people that maybe where you're weak, and that's important for, I think, a sustainable business.
So you have been with Alibaba for quite some time already. We are talking about culture. How do you see the culture, affect yourself?
Yeah.
And also your team, being a banker, investment banking has been very fast-paced, right?
Yes.
And a corporate would be quite different, especially a company like Alibaba. How does that affect, how you work?
So I, as you said, I joined Alibaba in 2012 from a long time, 20 plus years in banking, and everyone talks about the culture of their different institutions and their different firms. Yeah. When I came in Alibaba, the thing that struck me, and I was new, I would try to go and learn about the business. This is actually, I would try to go and learn about the business, and I would visit various business leaders and presidents. Number one, they were so open and sharing. But the second thing that really surprised me was a week later, I would have memos on my desk from that BU leader with additional thoughts and helping me learn about the business.
Right.
And that really struck me about Alibaba. It's a very sharing, open, collaborative culture. And I think that carries through. We have to think about our customers and make sure that we solve their problems. We have to think about taking on responsibility and adjusting to change. And I think that has been it actually was not a big issue for me to adjust to the culture because it's such an open and warm culture.
Right, I see. So I guess for the audience online, if you have any questions, you can submit online, and then we can ask Michael to take some of the questions. Let me see if there are any questions for you, Michael. Okay, so maybe while we are waiting for, okay. Okay, venture capital and what Alibaba. Okay, so I guess, so Michael, while we are waiting for questions for you from the floor, maybe you can share a bit more about, really on the capital market side, because I think this will be an interesting topic for our startups. So just now you talk about when to go for the IPO. You have to find your right partners, and you have to, so that they can, really work for you in the longer term. But really more specific on doing the IPO in the process. When the company go for IPO and engage their professional advisors, and during the it's a long process, right? Are there any tips you can share with the startups that they should never, commit any pitfalls that they must avoid?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing obviously is find a good set of advisors, obviously,
right.
good set of underwriters. But I would say just make sure it's an opportunity for you to showcase the business. And I think what a lot of advisors will do is maybe advise the company on a traditional approach of doing things, of a very standard approach. But you as the founder know the business the best. You know how to position your business, how to describe it. Describe it in a vibrant and passionate way. If you don't do that, people can tell. And as an entrepreneur, you started the business with passion. So make sure that comes out in anything you describe about your business.
Right, okay. Okay, so we get some questions from the floor now. So the first question is asking you about the geopolitical situation. Will you be worried about the US and China tensions?
So the US and China tensions, and I think the previous speaker spoke about it as well, it has not been constructive over the last few months, and it also has evolved. It has gone from a trade discussion to bigger areas with regard to security, military, et I think if there's a view towards decoupling, it's that you would see very difficult. We always believe in connectivity. There's 120 billion of imports that China takes every year from the US. That's a good thing. So we believe connectivity, trade is important, and we'll continue to sort of encourage that.
Right. Okay. I think this is an interesting one. So if you're a new graduate this year, will you consider to go into banking or a startup or a VC? So assuming that you are a fresh grad.
What was the last one, a VC?
Or VC, yeah.
I tell my children that they shouldn't go into banking. I find it much more interesting to go into a startup, entrepreneurship, or a VC, absolutely.
Right, I see. So I think we have we have used up all our time. Actually, we have overrun a bit, but it's very interesting insights from Michael. Thanks again for joining us, and yeah.
Thank you.